to do, and don't forget that some of the appointments, ministerial, some agencies and whatever, other people we have to recommend for him to appoint. But those that knew him, those that he has, there's one, most of you will know him, the former minister of FCT, Muhammad Musa Bello, we call him Bello. That was another replica of Buhari. When you see him, he will just look at you, go to his office, he will give you debino. And he believes that the world is just not about affluence. When that man left office in 2019, when he came back, people went to his house and he was owning his generator himself. This is a former minister. So he had people that knew his lifestyle and they were still with him. There were others that were recommended that couldn't really carry on. That is frugality. That is lifestyle of let's be prudent. So those were the ones that did not really follow his footsteps as far as governance is concerned and being prudent. Those that were recommended by friends and those that also saw Buhari is just one man. You can't expect him to be everywhere at a time. So, but those that he knew, they were always there and they were also always doing what he wanted them to do. His friendship, superb. He's always doing those things. And I gave you an example of being in the Federal Executive Council. We were having a valedictory session and he was talking about the late Yaradua, the senior Yaradua, and he was talking about how they were in places in military school, that they share bed, they are roommates and some other things. So he has a memory of his friends, and he's someone that keeps to his friends wherever he goes to. If he's in London, either for medical checkup, you still see people coming around him. The Bishop of Canterbury, the Anglican man, you know that man, he is a personal friend of the president and some other things. So he has that good memory, and he will definitely make you laugh. Staying with Buhari will make you laugh. And I told you how he remembers a lot of things too. When you change, he will change. He was telling Adesina, Mr. Adesina, his SA media, saying, now that you are a chief, how do you combine being a chief and being my spokesperson? How is it like? And we all laugh. So he's a jolly good fellow to those that want to be prudent like him. But for the rest that don't believe in being prudent, he was a difficult person. And you can expect that in every setting.
All right, as we continue with the live coverage, we will show you, some VIPs who have come to sign the condolence register there in his house. We are seeing some pictures of people already seated and some signing the condolence register there. Former Secretary to the Federation, Boss Mustafa there. We're also seeing the one before then, Yayale Ahmed, all seated there. And the former governor of Katsina State, Bello Masari, there as well. Also, and of course, that is opposition PDP chairman there, Umar Damagum, also seated there to bid former President Buhari farewell. We are seeing the arrival of some motorcade perhaps from Katsina, having received the remains of the president. So it seems as if the motorcade from Katsina is arriving Daura now. So very shortly we shall of course hand you over to our commentary team in Daura to continue the proceedings. But I will be waiting for that as well. My colleagues are on standby as well. Suleiman Konongi, Abdullah Mustafa, all are standing by in Daura to give us blow by blow account of what is happening right there. But you just spoke about the issue of appointment, and then of course Dr. Kinishi just spoke about his natural humor. There was an event where he was addressing the soldier that was much taller than him. Of course, the former president was well above 6 feet, but this soldier towered above him, and then he craned his neck as if his neck was paining him, and the entire hall was in fits because he was just using that to demonstrate the fact that he saw someone who was much taller than himself. He had these, moments of dry wit, and sometimes even directed at himself, and that resonated with a lot of people who believed in his kind of administration. Moving on, how do we begin to cultivate this kind of leadership style, which is on you know what to expect from your leader. You know by his antecedents, and you know what is on the cover of the book is what is inside the book, as against some of these compromises we see just for photo ops, and then when you take this on the saddle of leadership, the mantra takes another turn entirely. We've seen that the different color or faces of politicians before and after elections. Dr. Sanusi.
For me, I think just like we have a Yaradua Center, I think we need to institutionalize the memory of the president by opening, a center that would document his life and times, his values, his principles, what he stood for, what was his take on different aspects of life for people that would want to learn more about him. This doesn't need to be online, so that the younger ones, can also benefit from it. Doctor mentioned earlier that now maybe we would have to now put together all of those people that had written about him in the past, so that we have a repository, for those that want to, benefit. So I think that's important, to do. He didn't end up building a library like most former presidents do in the U.S. and as former President Obasanjo did as well. Maybe that's something that is worth considering as well. But what's important is that he has led a very good life, by example. There is a complete, definition of leadership by example, and servant leadership, selfless leadership. Sometimes you hear people saying, well, he was a selfish man. He only liked himself. I've heard commentaries like that. But then you would realize, just like we discussed off camera, the people that are doing the right things are those that are defined as being difficult or selfish or whatever. And also, maybe some people would, from what I see, from my analysis of his life, for somebody that has seen the good, the bad, the ugly of Nigeria, that has fought to keep this country together, that has mingled with, all kinds of people from all walks of life, understands Nigeria very well, knows this is his own trajectory and this is light, and for other people, darkness. Maybe it was a strategy for him to stay aloof, because you reported that somebody said reported that he was aloof.
No,
maybe it was a strategy, knowing what he knows about Nigerians, and knowing that this is him, he can't deviate from this. Sometimes maybe it's a strategy to just remain aloof and just keep looking and remain silent.
All right, just in your picture there, just while Dr. Sanusi was speaking, we saw the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris Malagi, arriving the venue. That means, of course, many of the dignitaries who are at the airport, international airport in Katsina, are now in Daura. We are seeing the defense chief of army staff there, Lieutenant General Musa there, and other defense chiefs arriving the venue, signaling that activities will soon commence out here in Daura. So we're expecting very shortly the arrival of His Excellency, the President and Commander of the Forces of the Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the chief mourner, to arrive the venue. And of course, the state governors as well from different parts of the country also arriving at the venue, and that's just outside the compound of the former president. Let's take in the ambience of Daura right now, and just have a feel of what is happening right there on ground in Daura.
host, their counterpart and host governor, Umaru Duko at the government house Kasana, from where they moved to the Umar Musa Adua International Airport, where they received all dignitaries from even from the neighboring Niger Republic. There is a representation from the military leader Abdurrahman Chani, led by the Prime Minister, as well as other dignitaries from Chad Republic and other parts of Africa who are coming to join in these important aspects of the final respect for late Nigerian leader Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away 2 days ago in London after a brief illness or prolonged illness, because he has been there for some time. Because some of the people of Daura were concerned that he was not able to celebrate the Eid al-Kabir here, which was a tradition for him. He came even when, as president, Eid al-Kabir was celebrated by him every year in Daura, but they missed him this Salah, and not knowing that they will miss him forever. So that was the statement by one of the mourners at his residence this morning. I can see the Minister of Information, the spokesperson to the federal government, Muhammad Idris, responding to questions while on his way to the
because it's on
helipad, because I can
Twitter.
see a number of media representatives
3 hours ago.
who were initially prevented. They were told that they will only be allowed after the remains were brought in. So they are now interviewing the Minister of Information, and that is Alhaji Muhammad Idris. Told that the delay in the arrival of the remains of the late former president, which was earlier scheduled to be around 1 o'clock, and the prayer was to take place around by 2 p.m. It is about 6-hour journey between the European nation and Nigeria. But here we are. Already his remains have been received at the airport by President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which was conveyed by the Vice Hashim Shetima along with President Femi Bajabiamila. Alongside the remains with the family members and the federal government delegation drafted to London by President Bola Tinubu. There was a military parade, which is a tradition for any senior military personnel and a former commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And of course, definitely been a national state funeral to be led by the nation's commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Moment, a large crowd, everybody here is calm, are mourning a great loss of a person who Nigerians and people across the world use and still using various beautiful adjectives to describe his life as an individual, as a leader, and as a citizen. But any moment from now, since you may wish to know that the distance between the Daura and Kasana is about 72 kilometers, which is about an hour drive between. But due to the nature of the trip and the large convoys of vehicles, so it may take longer time, because from the time the remains left the airport is more than an hour now, and that the Umar Musa Air International Airport is just very close to the Katsina Daura highway, so it's really not far or not very not short as well, but delayed by the crowd and the long motorcade conveying the remains, and of course the president, the dignitary who are coming to take part in the funeral rites, which will be the final, the last aspect of this state funeral for the former leader Muhammadu Buhari, and after the prayers he'll be laid to rest inside his residence here in Daura, Katsina State.
Dignitaries who earlier arrived at the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina now arrived at Daura for the final funeral rites for the former president, late President past administrators in the country thronging the venue. Earlier we cited, of course, the Minister of Information ushering others into the venue, and our correspondent said the prayers will be offered around the helipad, but it seems as if there have been some changes to accommodate the crowd, as we can see in these shots. Like we earlier discussed, it seems as if the entire town of Daura has emptied to the compound of the former president to be a part of this event. And we can see there, of course, so many visitors to Daura today, a lot of leaders from the north, many of the eminent emirs already there, spiritual leaders, former administrators, talking about state governors, military administrators, current governors as well. And this has cut across party divide. We have seen the acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party seated, even perhaps what looks like the sitting room there of the former president, talking about Umar Darmago, former governor Bello Masiri, and since so many of them there, of course, Chief of Army Staff there, Chief of Defense Staff arrived earlier as well, in company of other senior military officers, including most of the defense chiefs, all in attendance. And we're still seeing more diplomatic background. You're seeing people, citizens and indigents of Daura and, of course, Katsina at large. So this has been how it has played out since the news of his passing, reached Nigeria on Sunday. There has been an outpouring of, solidarity, messages of commiseration from friends of the country, friends of the former head of state, people who know him, even those who did not, but understood Dr. Korede.
It's a testament to the nature of the person Muhammadu Buhari. The kind of relationship he chose to have with people whilst alive, in public service. We heard earlier from the gentleman that worked with him, closely in the media, that Baba Buhari was a president that was unassuming, somebody that would like to be your friend. He gives you the first shot to just make you calm down, like you're discussing, you're coming to meet with a fellow human being, a friend of yours, a father figure. Don't think you're coming to meet with an eagle that has, a big fire on his head, as the case may be. So he has all this about him, yet not given away his integrous character that has built over the years and has made him. There's also a testament by a gentleman who fought alongside with him in the Civil War, a retired soldier who by fate happened to be my senior at my alma mater in secondary school, the Great Ibadan High School. Excuse me. He said to us, on the platform and then in writing, that at a time there was a change in government in the 70s. They were looking for who, will rightly become the next Chief of Army Staff. Those who are the authorities, those who are in charge of that operation, suggested a Muhammadu Buhari to become the Chief of Army Staff because of his uprightness, because of his frugality, because of his integrity, because of his commitment and dedication to service. But along the line, they said, guy, if you make this man the Chief of Army Staff, he may not listen to us if we're about to change things and all that. He will just stand straight. He was younger, so he would do that at the time. So he did not become the Chief of Army Staff. They chose another person. A time came, another coup occurred, which he did not participate in. And they now had learned. They said they are now looking for somebody that now has integrity to become Nigeria's head of state, to lead, governance, which was, how he became the military head of state of Nigeria, based on his good character. So you can see a lot of people, not only in Daura. This incidents that we're seeing now is happening in various homes, millions of homes throughout Nigeria, throughout Africa, and worldwide. Amongst human beings on earth, leaders, Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, stands amongst those that you can, have, that has a place in the history when it comes to being an officer, a gentleman, a man of integrity, a man that is frugal, a good public officer that delivers on his words, that stands by his words and ensures that he delivers. A good example, father figure, to those who believe in him, to men and women of goodwill. We are not unmindful of naysayers, but we know that we'll keep doing the right things. We'll keep talking about Muhammadu Buhari as the right thing. And we'll just pray that people see him as, a figure whose character, whose antecedents to be studied to guide them along life, as it had been in my own case. So that's the kind of thing we're looking at today.
All right. Very shortly, of course, we are expecting we'll get to the climax of today's activity very shortly as we continue to witness, of course, the movement of the VIPs and our international guests are there in Daura. I understand there was a slight delay in terms of the flight getting to Nigeria earlier. That perhaps, will be the cause of the fact while we were expecting this to begin at 2 for our viewers. Of course, the remains arrived earlier, about 3 o'clock, just before 3 o'clock in the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina, and has since proceeded for Daura. We're expecting the arrival in the next couple of minutes, since we have seen the arrival of the presidential delegation already and some of the VIPs we earlier saw at the airport. Now that this has happened, sometimes events help to shapen the course of an history and help shapen the course of a nation. You know much about the legacies in terms of the economics of Buhari'sm, of the Buhari tenure. Moving forward, are there things that we could pick up from his presidency for leaders of today and tomorrow in managing the affairs of the nation?
We did not, in clear political definitive terms, describe his leanings, his socio-political, economic leanings. But of course, scholars would easily situate him, in the context of a social democrat. And being a social democrat, it would be, of course, a first-line appeal, to the mass of the people. And in his own case, I think there was a profound linkage to the people at the base of the pyramid, for which he advocated, throughout those 8 years, for which, for the first time in the history of Nigeria's political economy, he created an office that, of course, evolved to become the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. And of course, one also had the unfortunate resistance of that concept by the larger class of Nigerian elites who thought that the activities of that office of social intervention, when it was first created, have been meaningful. It wasn't until some of us also amplified that advocacy to say that it was not just about Muhammadu Buhari. It's actually a concept developed by the World Bank, and that this concept fitted properly into the advocacy of the president at that time. Because for him, where virtually the higher cadre of the political class and the economic class, as it were, benefited from the little meager resources that get into the public space, the larger number of Nigerians, and he inherited about 85 million, Nigerians living under the poverty line in 2015. And I think we also need to put that into historical perspective, as at that time, we had 85 million Nigerians living under $1, the global poverty benchmark at that time, under $1 a day. And so this was a huge inheritance for him. It was a huge legacy to manage. So when he started, of course, to implement those interventions, to understand the context of that intervention, and of course the context of the person behind it, where of course, how do I call it now? We're enraged, more or less, because I know I was involved in a number of social engagements with some of these otherwise highly knowledgeable Nigerians. But for him, it was an exercise that needed to be done and see to the end, because it was talking about taking Nigerians, millions of Nigerians out of poverty. And the first thing, the approach was first, let's stabilize these poor people. And that the economies of poverty is to state that these are potentials in redundancy. If you are able to create an economic agency or economic agency out of a human being that could not live sustainably, you are also adding to the capacity, or the economic capacity, of the nation. So I think the burden of poverty is still a major challenge for the Nigerian states, and there is still a need to have focused programs, focused policies to circle out large numbers, of people in the poverty circles in Nigeria. Now, of course, that argument was also furthered by the World Bank, who also now moved from the financial definition of the monetary definition of poverty to the multidimensional poverty, to say that more than 135 million Nigerians were living in multidimensional poverty. And of course, it became a political information, that was not exactly, how do I call it, tolerance, tolerating for the political class, because the opposition was easy, to reference that figure. But again, for the Buhari regime, don't forget that at that time there was a huge advocacy around open tolling, There was a huge advocacy around increasing access to electricity, and a number of attempts to also, of course, bring into reality the implementation of the millennial goals, most of the millennial goals during this time in office. So for me, I can see a linkage, anyway, from what the Buhari regime did with what the present government is doing, and I define my linkage as even from the base of the party itself. The party that God used late President Muhammadu Buhari and the current president, H.E. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to establish. For the first time in more than 30 years, we could reference a political party that we could define easily what ideological standing, the latency that we are talking about at this time. And I think so far, with the economic reforms, the unintended effect had been an increase in the number of poor people, So, and that is why, yes, we have seen a lot of fiscal, fiscal rates, fiscal impacts at the macro level. We are seeing inflation rate is falling. Most likely, the benchmark MPR rate will fall by the time the next Monetary Council meeting, Monetary Policy Council meeting holds. We'll see some other, which will also translate to reduction in banking interest rates and all that. But everybody agrees that the millions of Nigerians that are the base of the pyramid are yet to feel it. So that should be a major focus. Everything should be done, to get to hit that large community. We are talking of more than 35% of the population. So if this government is able, of course, to achieve that, it would have been a major accomplishment. And of course, it will be an accomplishment that can be worthy of the memory, of late President Muhammadu Buhari.
Well, let's look at the policies very quickly, Dr. Korede. And a lot of people have said this, that you vote for parties, you don't vote for individuals per se, especially when you are looking at the legalese surrounding elections and all that. They say it's the party that is the platform, you vote for the party and all that. But in terms of Buhari came to every election with his reputation. Whichever political party, be it CPC, AAPP, and eventually APC, he had his followership based on, a reputation he has built over time. And that resonates with me in terms of, being able to identify him with his particular character and what to expect from that character. Are we having that now in our polity? Especially, it's not a reputation built at the national level. It was built from his service in the military to the, positions he held while he was rising through the ranks. Are we having that now? And are we, will Nigerians queue behind such characters now as we, continue in our democratic journey?
That brings to mind the principle of party supremacy. Yes, the parties are the ones being voted for in every election, the political parties, officially by INEC. You vote for the party. Actually, you thumbprint for the party, not for the individual. But the party in itself, the owners of the party, the powers that be within the party, the management of the party, will look at personalities that has a history of good leadership, that has a good history of followership, those that will be the winning card for them. The personalities of these two amiable gentlemen, Muhammadu Buhari GCFR, now late, and the incumbent president Bola Ahmed Tinubu, had built, political values for themselves over the decades. So irrespective of the political party they are representing or they are campaigning upon, they will always win any election whilst alive. So I don't want to say that their personalities, their persona, towers over the party, with due respect to what we have agreed to allow party supremacy, to take over our administration of politics, by INEC's council, to political parties. And this is how, you don't find people who will come into a party, spend all the monies and then ask the executives to park to one side while they rule over the party. There is party supremacy in Nigeria, despite the fact that our individuals, those candidates, are the ones that would have gotten, a good history, of good quality in terms of integrity, good governance, to ensure that when they become the candidate, they have the capacity to democratically win such elections for the party.
All right. Ms. Festus, you listen to what Dr. Korede was saying just now. We saw a movement, in 2015, what everybody now calls a coalition. They called it a merger in 2015, in 2013, moving to 2014, and then eventually contest in 2015. AMPP, CPC, APC, and an element of APGA being a part of that contraption. Now that we have, this meeting of minds, and we're seeing some of them now, still coming up based on their, yes, it was a merger, but we still see elements of those parties, in terms of their outlook to governance. We had people in the CPC bloc in that government, people of the APC extraction in the government, AMPP, as well as APGA. What have we learned from that? Were they able to, under his supervision and during his presidency, were they able to fulfill their promises? what Nigerians were looking for in 2015. Why, that was such a popular platform.
Yes, like I said earlier that when the president was elected, now late President Muhammadu Buhari, the expectation was high. People felt that indiscipline, corruption, and some other things were at the height of it. That if nothing is done, Nigeria was going to crash. Now, when he came, the body language thing we talked about, you could notice that for the first 3, 4, 5 months, things were right. And we started talking about body language. What that tells you is that we know how to do what is right. But for some reasons, for some benefit that we get from what is wrong, we refuse to do what is right. Now, normally, you are a Nigerian, and I wouldn't want to say that, but we also need to tell ourselves the truth. Whenever there is any system that is meant to check corruption, you will see people investing money on how to circumvent that system, spending so much money on how to, okay, this one just came. They said that one is very strong now. You cannot enter NTA now. If you are not a staff, if you don't have a card, if you don't have something that will make you enter, somebody will bring out millions of naira to see how they can circumvent that particular structure that has been put in place. So after about 6 months, for the first 6 months, people were studying how do we circumvent this man that is Megaskia, that's the man that does everything right. They were now also looking for how to infiltrate those that were appointed and those that were close to him. We started seeing things like snakes swallowing money and some other things in the country. But the thing is, as far as Buhari was there at that time, from what we saw, those CPC voices, ANPP, ABGA, and some other people, they were silent. Once Buhari is there, Buhari is there. It was about Nigeria. But whenever they want to discuss things at the regional level, we will not be able to say, okay, Dr. Tayo is talking to every one of us as panelists, and nobody is light-skinned, nobody was president of the country. Those were also voices. And don't forget that first 2 years, governance. Every other thing is next politics. So, that do more because politics is very local. What we have in Abuja here is not politics, it's FCT. Yeah. What we have here is people coming from those regions. So when the noise, the CPC block, the ANPP block, the ACN and the ABGA, a part of it, when they want to get the next power, you begin to see voices coming. After all, you were not there. After all, you were not this. After all, you were not this. But Buhari tried as a president to be able to unite. But you can never, I would say, you cannot silence these voices because they came together as a coalition that we are calling them now. Then it was a merger to form the government. But when they go back, there are still places like, I'm from Delta State, or up until very recently, they will tell you that go and sleep. Delta is PDP and not. You come into a coalition. When we go back to Delta, the PDP's voice will be louder than any other. United Front will be louder to create that one Nigeria image. But going back to the states, because politics is local, we see how those voices that were echoing.
I'm coming back to you, sir, but let me just take Dr. Sanusi on this. You know, the former coordinating minister of the economy, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo, while I was the head of WTO right now, World Trade Organization, mentioned that when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. And we continue to see that play. Is a flaw in our administrative process even when you come with good intentions? There are people, there are so-called some cabal, some whatever contraption you want to call it, just staying there waiting to make sure that you score.
Well, Chancellor. and where you need to replace, manual, services or services provided by human beings, if it's going to be better. Have mechanisms, to check at every point. A Buhari is required, right, at the helm for corruption to dissipate. When he just came in, some people started returning money, some people were running away, going on exile. People just thought it was going to be like it was in 1983. But, obviously it couldn't be like that because the processes are different now. There needs to be investigation. You need to be found culpable. You need to go to court. The court needs to do their bit. At all of these stages, corruption is involved. It's quite sad. So it's difficult if it's something. Even staff of anti-corruption agencies, staffs in the judiciary, everybody is in the business, except you. And when he tried,
it's a business now.
It's a business. It's a way of life. Unfortunately, he tried. In expect that he would come up without having a clean. I mean, with having his to happen because it's sending a wrong signal. So how best can you do it? He tried that, it didn't work. There was a backlash. Even within the anti-corruption agency, a head of the agency had to be removed. Because noticed something was happening. People that were close to Buhari that knew that he didn't like corruption, they latched on that and used it to also displace some of their enemies that were not necessarily corrupt. Because once you tell a Buhari that this person is corrupt, you have already spoiled his mood. And if it's somebody that he likes, the best he can do is to say, okay, let the person step aside, let him be investigated. Especially if you bring some sort of concocted, evidence that okay, the person is. Most of the time, if you go and investigate those people, you find out that they were innocent. It happened on one or two occasions during the last administration that I remember of. People try to use the fact that he doesn't like corruption to, fight. But it's a good thing to have a leader that is known for his stance against corruption. But beyond that, we need to put checks, balances in place under him. There was, different things that were introduced into our system through the Ministry of Finance, through the Accountant General Office to check, corruption, which I felt, were good innovations. But to what extent were we able to do that? Because in all aspects, from procurement to even budgeting, to even, payments, all of those, you find loopholes in corruption. So to what extent was he able to, is what, we're talking
Dr.
about.
Korede Martins wanted to make an intervention.
Yes, just an intervention just for quickly. Yeah, there was, an advocacy, subtle advocacy, with respect to the imperative of the government looking through ensuring that the macroeconomics that we've been developing over time actually comes micro, that is for people to now benefit, at the grassroots, from policies of government. And this speaks to, the vision of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR at the speech at the National Assembly, the second tenure. It's 2 years anniversary, second anniversary, the second anniversary as president. And he said that yes, the first 2 years we've addressed macroeconomics, we're seeing, but by the third year, that we're latching on to, and the budget 2025 that will commence as soon as National Assembly, reconvenes properly after all this, we'll deal with microeconomics, to which, they've budgeted a lot of money for things that will go to, micro businesses, small and medium enterprises, starting with the will be expanded, student loan scheme that a lot of parents who can't afford to, train their children in universities and polytechnics are benefiting, from. They're looking at per local government, 1 million, nano businesses being supported. Looking for, how small, medium-scale enterprises will be given single-digit loans. And at the larger scale, if you're a manufacturer and you have, excuse me, you own a factory that is verifiable and you want to resuscitate your factory. Once they found out that you truly, running this business, you need money. 1 billion naira will be available through Central Bank of Nigeria to do this single-digit, credit for you. So all these are embedded in this 2025, budget that is oncoming. So we're trusting that once, National Assembly reconvenes properly after all these national programs, the 2025 budget will take effect, and all this will be. So that will put pay and answer to the imperatives and
I want to latch out on some of the submissions of Dr. Sanusi Mohammed, where the Central Delivery Unit of Nigeria, under the Special Advisor on Policy. The implementation of that policy, and that's where sometimes the human interface fails in terms of making sure that this gets there. For instance, let's look at the issue of removal of subsidy and the windfall that has come at the state level. To just start with that, sometimes almost triple some of the monies that they've collected, more than double in some cases in some months. And just as we're having that discussion, we can see in our shots Senator Kashim Shettima, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, with the Governor of Borno State, Professor Umaru Babagana Zulum, all coming into the compound of the former head of state, arriving now. Recall that it was Vice President Kashim Shettima who went all the way to London to bring back the remains of the late former president, and now they've arrived at the venue of the event now in Daura. We just saw them coming in. So I understand that they are leaving the residence for the helipad where the prayers will be held by the Imam there of Daura. Will get there with the ambience and the commentaries shortly once our colleagues, are ready. Just before we joined them, we're just talking about concepts and making these policies work. So we've seen the governors receive much more than they were receiving. Now disbursement and making sure that people get, in terms of sectoral impact in their states is where perhaps some of the states are stuck in terms of the citizens feeling directly why the objective of removing the subsidy and making sure that Nigerians directly benefit from the rules. We can see the debates.
Yeah, I'd say that policies should be directed to the citizens of the state. You see, Mr. President and the current federal administration, as you rightly said, has given increased budgetary allocation to states and local governments, which is unprecedented, in our annals of governance in Nigeria. So civil society organizations, advocates and all that should encourage citizens of each state to ask their governors questions, to write letters, to go ahead with subtle campaigns to demand for how these monies are being spent every 30 days. They come to the Federal Ministry of Finance, and the 1.6, 1.5, 1.7 trillion naira is shared between the three tiers of government. And governors go away with tens of billions of naira per state, and local governments get theirs directly. So people need to direct advocacies towards that. The federal government is doing what they could in terms of providing infrastructure, and promised that we'll go into actually ensuring that citizens benefit. But the president of Nigeria can only do ensuring and it's the duty and responsibility of your government that translates into. After all, there cannot be a federal government without local government and states. Nigeria is made up of the 774 local governments and FCT and the states. Federal government is not, geographically Nigeria. The geographic expression of Nigeria are the 774 local governments are embedded in states, that is the states and the FCT. So, and we have governors who are educated, governors who are experienced, governors that are voted for by the people. So our advocacy should go to the people of each state to make demands of their excellencies, to bring to account what they are doing with these monies they are receiving from the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR every month.
All right, to understand the prayer is taking place, so take it to the
wanda ta akwai wani wajen hasan ma yana taimaka mai cikin gurin mai amma na ba ta take shi ba da kunci ne yake na za a fara yanzu ba ka maganin mami ke faruwa mutanen sai ma da ba ki da rike wuri amma sun shiga wancan fili waje wasu ya shiga baya ko motoci wani waje ne ba ka maganin komai da sanakunan na da suna hada su aka kulle sun yi ne shiga sun ga yanayin mutane ba hanya ya cika da baya don duka can duka sai a yi ta hula da kawai ne kawai da sai a ce na nan cikin sai a yi sallah sai a yi ta hula kawai ganin sallah biyai ba a tare da sallah fara sallah dole shi nan ake sallai ina gaya ma muna nan duka muna nan an samu cikin helifat amma kuma duka ba abin da wanda ya sa abin da ya gaya waje kazo al'asar yanzu karfe 5 Allah ka ga maka yan jarida su kansu ba za su iya baka labari ni da ba ga muna
wallahi su kan su sanye da ba su yi organize abin ba ya tuta muna nan mu ne ga muna
ai ba wannan bane ba wannan nan cikin da ake na cikin can ai ya shigo ga nan ku kashi aka wannan shigo wannan
assalamu alaikum wallahi ina can amma
wannan gwamna abin da
ya ba maka rabi abin ne kawai Allah ya hankali ai yanzu ba ya san ko ko an yi ya zo kun za ku daga ga mana ina tare da su ba a kan mic nake shi yasa Baba,
security yana kallon tv wata za ki sai ji magana shi ba a yi ba kuna take ke bai ne kake ina ga ana yin sallah mutum sai waje ba sa sahun rike waya a hannu dama na a yan karama ce ni na toma da ita daman ajiye abuna ne na to da wata kagaci layi ne kawai zan da sau
za a yi sallah zo mu je nan misal
an fara ne amma ne ba fara ba laifin ka ne wuta
ai ba ya gani
laifin ya bi mu Allahu Akbar. Angama. Wait, wait.
By the Chief Imam of Dora and attended by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in honor of late President Muhammadu Buhari. And the place was, the helipad was too full that the funeral had to be conducted outside and with the remains inside the because of the there. And ambulance is now being moved out of the premises or the surrounding of the helipad to the residence of the late leader, where he'll be laid to rest within the courtyard of that private residence here in Daura. That attracted where he lived. He lived a significant portion of his life here, especially when he left the military, and after leaving office as president, the 15th president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Indeed, the people of Daura are in a state of mourning, though it's a national mourning. There is 7 days declared by the president as days of mourning. Flags are flying at half-mast, and all ministries, departments, and agencies directed to open condolence register at the entrances of their various offices in honor of the great leader who is now receiving the final respect from the nation he served for several decades, because he joined the military in 1962, so he has been serving the country for more than 6 decades. 1962 to 2025 is exactly 63 years. Now the president, vice president, emir of Daura, ministers, and all dignitaries are moving towards the residence of former President Muhammadu Buhari, which is located not far away from which is the final respects in his honor, and the 7-day mourning continues till Sunday next weekend, and the third day Fidel prayer is expected to be held tomorrow morning, that is Tuesday, at his private residence, and is expected to be attended by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, who has been with the family of the deceased, together with the Chief of Staff to the President, Right Honorable Femi Bajabiamila. And the prayers is part of the morning, is an additional activity after the funeral prayers to seek Allah's mercy and forgiveness upon a deceased person. And of course, thousands of people are here and join in doing so, and more are expected to do it again at the Fidel prayer, which with Vice President Kashim Shettima, who representing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on that occasion. Now we are expecting to see if our colleagues can get it, the location of the burial within the courtyard of his private residence here in Daura.
Lots of off records, man.
Lots.
The prayers have been concluded as supervised by the chief imam there, and then of course the Emir of Dara present also, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Vice President Kashim Shettima, all witnessed the prayer, and now the movement is to the family compound of the late president, and where he will be buried at his courtyard. We're seeing shots of his final resting place on your left there. That's where the remains are being awaited by members of his family, close associates, as well as dignitaries who have come to witness the exercise. Sometimes religion humbles you. After traversing the whole world, you come back and then you see the final resting place, then you know that man is just on a journey.
Yes.
Dr. Sanusi.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I think, this is deliberate. God wants us to understand that this life is transient, and that, as He has written in various holy books, there is a life after this life, and do not try to make this life your final abode by, acquiring what you don't require. If you look at the final resting place of our former beloved President, Muhammadu Buhari, you see that it's just a small square inch of dog, place, soil for him, to rest eternally. This is also a lesson for everyone, really, whether you are in office, whether you're a big man, whether you are, just a poor person. We are all going to die. Every soul shall taste death, and that will be your final resting place. Everything you've acquired, all the houses, all the vehicles, all the money that we all strive for, you're not going with anything. You're only just going to go there with your legacy, your good deeds, and all the shortcomings that you have. And at the end of the day, you account to your Creator. So there's a big lesson there for people that think. But then it's just we sit down and just really talk about these things. But by the time the president is laid to rest, after 2-3 days, everybody will just go about their normal business again, which is also a lesson in itself. That just like late President Buhari lived his life, he didn't really care about what people were saying. He had a focus. He had his principles and his legacy that he wanted to leave behind. And he knew that at the end of the day he would be alone. So if he cared about what people said and he did things that were not right, now he's alone. He's now with his creator. He now has to account. So we shouldn't toe that path of doing what's wrong just to please human beings. We should also always strive as individuals, as leaders, to be fair and firm, to stand on what's right, and then at the end of the day, you know that you are going to account for it.
All right, we're seeing former governor of Nasarawa State there, Alhaji Tanko Almakura. All of them are moving into the compound of the former president to give him a befitting farewell as the funeral burial rites are about to commence. Earlier we saw the governor of Borno State, Professor Umar Babagana Zulum, also getting into the compound there, and we are awaiting the president as well, who will also be at the burial site as well, and close associates and members of his immediate family are there as well, including the governor of Katsina, who has been welcoming people into Katsina State and now the compound. As you can see, that's the final resting place of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Like Dr. Sanusi said earlier, from the big residence of the villa and different places around the world, for man, at the end of the day, it's not much more than just the size of your body laid to Mother Earth. And politicians there as well will know that what of the dearly departed president his works, and the left the works and people he impacted upon Dr. Kinshiju.
So that's the Holy Bible tells us, that it's good to go to a place of burial, than to go to a place of celebration, because when you understand the imputation of existence itself and the reason for life, that it's a reminder to all humans alive that one day we will depart. How we depart will also be determined by ourselves. But the truth of the matter is, no matter how we departed, there's just a small space for us, in the ground, and that it is the memory of what we have done. It is the numbers of people we have impacted. It is how the extent to which we have developed, if we are empowered, develop our environments, that people would remind us about. Because the reality, and as we are seeing, is that life itself is not about, it's not in the assets we acquire. It is actually in the number of people that fondly remember us. And perhaps this has a way. I mean, I am not a prophet. I am not so religious, but I believe that this has a way of also following whoever departs this world into the other house living. Very well, especially where you are being a beneficiary of the collective. And I'm saying, for instance, you represent the interests of people in your constituencies, in your local governments, in your country. You are the custodian of the aspirations of these millions of people, these multiple numbers of people. In what way have you been able to serve the purpose for which they have invested in you? And that perhaps makes politics, in my mind, perhaps the most strongest, the highest, the climax, the peak of all responsibility required of humans, Because at every point in time, in the gathering of people, there will be leadership that are supposed to serve the needs of the people. And we are the people that invested their trust, their confidence in you. How have you been able to return to deliver, their expectations and all that? We sit there, Howards, and it's not just in this studio alone, and I'm very sure studios in various parts of this country, perhaps various parts of the world, talking about this great man, because in different ways he had impacted us. And some of us can actually stick out our neck and say that in truth and indeed, we testify to the fact that this man lived like this and as this. But how many politicians that had walked the face of the heart of Nigeria can be also referenced, and give testimony to about this? So we pray that as we evolve as a country, as a nation, that we have more people that would to give of them speech. And it's not just about politics, even in the civil service, either at the federal level, at the state level, at the local government level, it's important that essentially we have the determination to serve, and indeed to serve in deed and in truth.
Who's first, Fifen?
Doc has said it all. There is a quote from my pastor in those days as a growing up younger man, that I would die. Means that when it is time for me to go, there will be nothing that I should have done that I did not do. Looking at that grave, I took note of the firewood. Did you see the piece of wood?
Yes. So
there?
That's what they used to call it.
Yes, with all the glamour, with everything. I've been to that compound. I know how big the compound is. And if you look at the size of the grave, it's an inconsequential fraction of the whole of the compound. And this is a man, he died in London. He was flown here to Katsina, to Daura, even to his compound, and now he's ending somewhere there. So the question should now, with all these our bragado, as it were, to what end? I'm a journalist. I've done that for a couple of years, and I can tell you how some people. Doc made a statement that, especially if you were made by the collective, that is, some that enjoyed scholarship, some that the state trained, they are the ones that will now oversee a system where the children of the rich can no longer afford that same education or afford the basic necessities of life. When you finish all this, let's even assume that you are not a Muslim, your grave might not be like this. But you still have the normal standard of 6 feet, and it will not be too big. The best you can get is to have a tomb house over you, and the tomb house too is not also a very big building. So at the end of it, we will end somewhere. So now that we are alive, to those that are serving, to those that are reporting, to those that are holding one position or the other, you will either be remembered by the problems you created or the ones that you solve. So it is a time for us to look inward, look at ourselves, look at the positions that we have been given in the past, how we used it, look at the position that we are currently occupying, and for some of us that are also aspiring to have positions, what will you do when you eventually get there? Dr. Ruben Abati, I remember he wrote something when he left with President Jonathan. He said, the phones are no longer ringing. Meaning that when you leave that position, this your larger than life attitude, thinking that you have everything, thinking that you are in control of everything, will no longer be there. And at the end of the day, it is you, what you have done, and that little grave where you will end. And for those of us that believe in the life hereafter, you also account to your Creator how you spent your time. So it's actually a time of sober reflection, not for the dead anymore, because he is done with his own. It's for those of us that are still left, and nobody is going to leave this world alive. I remember a colleague that wrote part of the tribute he wrote for President Buhari. He said, oh, you have gotten there. the rest of us are on the way. We are coming. And somebody said, why would you write something like that? He said, for each day you wake up, you sleep, you wake up, you are getting closer to your grave. And that is the truth. So whatever privileged position you have, the power that you have, make a difference while you still can make that difference. I don't like this part. As a journalist, when you interview people that have occupied offices before, you see them talking about some of their regrets, some of the things they were supposed to do. Some of them will even be encouraging the incumbent. This is what you should have done. But we normally ask them, while you were there, why didn't you do it? If you know that this is right, you should have done it while we were there. But give and take is a lesson to every one of us. And we pray that this will also serve as a lesson. The highest position in Nigeria is the position he has occupied, not once but twice, and he was also a governor and some other positions that he had in this country. So if you can get to the president of the federal, at the end, that is where you are buried. No matter who you are in this country, no matter the money you have made in this country, one day you will also go this way, and you'll be remembered by the legacies that you leave behind. So it's actually a sober time for every one of us. And we hope that those of us that are still breathing can learn from this, not just to participate in talking about Buhari. Buhari has finished his own. It is left for us now to also use the time that we have so that we also live, people can say good things about us. It might not be in this setting where the world is saying one or two about the president, but in that your little corner, also make sure that you make your impact felt, and that people also celebrate you.
Dr. Korede Martins.
Yeah, I like to say to my brother not to worry, it's on the way. Well, the man Muhammadu Buhari, he came, he saw, he has conquered. He has left the stage for you, I, and us, collective. The stage is there for us to continue, act the roles that we are performing. At the end, it doesn't matter number of decades to come, the end shall still come for this mortal body with time. So what will determine where you end up will be your activities and your relationship with the fellow human beings, what you do actually. So let's make it positive, let's make it goodly, and let us make it, a rewarding relationship between us and fellow human beings. Almighty.
All right, Doctor, let's look at, politically. We've been talking of 10 million, 8 million, 10 million, 8 million that he returned in many of, even 12 million, that he returned in many of those elections. Is that movement still on? Or it's just about the man?
Well, the movement, to a large extent, I'd say, is still on. We cannot say 100% that it's there. Because recently you find some actors, try to shift base and form a quote-unquote coalition. That is the actors in 2015. Some of them, very few though. But with the governance structure of the current administration, the Buhari movement and the Renewed Hope movement, agenda movement, forms now a larger political group, a larger political force that will, pave way to improving upon the political gains and the numeracy of those that voted Muhammadu Buhari. So the movement is still on. It's larger. Positive democratic political force is on. We believe in Buhari, and we're carrying on with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR.
I have to pose the same question to, Dr. Kinshiju. Do you still believe in that bloc, or are there splinters based on political realities?
Of course, there are splinters. We are tracking them. Because the truth is that whatever Buhari does is the Buhari movement itself is a political heritage, and some of us that are also politically inclined claim it. We determine that we are part of it. And more consciously is the fact that we have a continuation of that heritage in the present government, federal administration, led by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Because essentially and in profound ways, either so many people agree or not, it is evolving for us to understand the reality of an ideologically driven political environment, which these two people share. You know, so if we describe Buhari as a social democrat, we describe Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a social democrat. We see a congruence of sorts in the policies they believe in the policy they have conceptualized under different circumstances, but essentially we are saying that it dovetails to the people. And that's the most important thing. And therefore, if Buhari's immediate objective was to, of course, elevate the economic standing of millions of people that found themselves in the poverty community, and it is also becoming clear, you know, that Tinubu's principal objective is in a bigger way to also elevate this large number of people, you know, onto away from the poverty community. So there's a coalition of thought, and I'm deliberately using the word coalition here because that become perhaps as it were in the Nigerian political lexicon over the last how many weeks. I'm abused in the real sense of it, because when you talk about coalition, you're talking about a number of people who have an objective, you know, to achieve. The merger of starting 2013 and crystallized in 2015 tells us a story of how people from different diverse political leanings could come together and under a single individual form towards a principal, you know, objective. And we are talking about APC today. There are reference milestones that party, you know, that group of people had, you know, survived. There have been turbulence, there have been storms, you know, but we see that rather than threats of destruction, we are seeing a stronger, unified platform. And while some people that, perhaps we also talk politics here, while some people are trying to compare the merger of 2015, crystallized in 2015, with the coalition of 2025, I asked what exactly is the basis for that comparison. One, the driving forces that culminated in the 2015, what do you call it, merger, is lacking in the coalition. In that merger, we saw the fact that politicians from different leanings, proclivity, were coming as a result of dissatisfaction with the policies that were being conceived and implemented at the federal level, you know. And you saw not just ordinary people who are disgruntled, you saw people who were in power, determined to change things. And perhaps that was why change became, you know, the reference phrase of that era. So, to a large extent, I believe that the Nigerian political space is still deserving of the vision of Buhari, because you have that millions of people that desires leadership, you know, of the kind of class that Buhari was ready to give. And I think in a large manner, and I'm not just being partisan here, I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has determined to also provide, or even, it's not even about provide. If we track back to President Tinubu's period in Lagos State, and we can reference what he did as governor, it's easy for us, of course, to extrapolate and situate that at the federal level and determine the fact that from where Buhari left, this president is taking off. And is going to take off with those 12 million voters. And this will reflect in 2027. I am sure of that. Because those voters will be looking out for somebody that will crystallize that, some of these policies in place, especially the tax acts, without any doubt. The fact that you had somebody who is the head of a sovereign administration ready to impact the lives of the Nigerian poor. Because that's what the Tax Act is all about. It's not about increasing revenue. Yes, we generate revenue, increase revenue, but it's more about elevating the economic status of millions, more than 30% of the Nigerian that. So I believe the nature of politics that we will experience going into 2027 will be very, very, very different, from the ones we have been experiencing before. Because this is not going to be about 12 million votes plus. All
right, we are looking at live pictures from Daura, the streets leading to the residence of the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, late President Muhammadu. Very short pictures from the grave site as Nigerians and eminent Nigerians, family members enter into the compound. As once we get steady pictures from there, naturally there will be some push and shove. As we showed you pictures from the grave site, but very shortly we would be back there once our cameramen get steady shots from there. But this is just the street outside the fence of the house, and then we'll get better pictures as you outside broadcast bands from different establishments, also trying to get a vantage point for the moment. While we reflect on this, Doctor, this is just a day, but it is perhaps to reflect on the entire life of a man who has served the nation, in some cases made some controversial comments himself, and handled controversial situations, and but for one thing, he remained steadfast to his beliefs, and in his own way for 8 years tried to shape the direction of state. As we begin to round off, and of course once we get signals and then wrap up the funeral rites, we will also be left with our thoughts in terms of public administration. If farewell being to him.
Well, my takeaway is that you need to just generally be a good person. You have to have principles, you have to have integrity, you have to live for something and die for something, and you have to have the understanding that there is a higher calling which everybody should strive to. Ultimately, as Muslims, we believe that we are here to worship our Lord, our Creator, and by so doing, any sphere of life that you yourself, whether it's public service, whether it's civil service, whether it's just business, your relationship with people and how you project that worship in terms of your relationship is also part of worship. But then let me intervene in the previous question that you asked about this 12 million votes, whether it's now
still intact or
yes,
there are splinters.
First of all, God gives power, and General Muhammadu Buhari's consistent 12 million votes has been would have been happy as APC if he were alive in 2027 to come and also raise the hand of President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It would have made things easier. But for those were relying on that as a way of easy way to win the election, well, President Muhammadu Buhari is no more. But then the God that gives power to whom he wants is still there, and he will remain there forever. So while we go back spiritual to pray to God to give us that direction, especially in this difficult time that we've lost a colossus and someone that we all converge around, it is also important for us to reflect and use his demise to re-strategize, right? If we're planning, and one of our plans was relying on him, now he's no more. And the votes are there. They are like lost sheep now. It's going to be splinters. We're going to have different people trying to, the coalition, they are trying to grab their share, APC governors, APC stakeholders. It'll take a while before we have a figure as General Muhammadu Buhari that will have these 12 million votes. But the votes are there. APC definitely inherits the bulk of it. But then we need to work hard to get more people from this coalition. We need to prevent our base from falling into the hands of the coalition. Because the truth is, as a politician, I'm not oblivious of the fact that a coalition or a merger that we did back in 2013 that
all right, let's very shortly we'll get pictures from the family compound and the final resting place. As you can see now, to, you know, we're getting close now to the remains of the president. We're getting close to it now, and very shortly this would you know, prayers as well before that is done. Perhaps you can give us an idea of what to expect in the next few minutes.
I mean, the main prayer has been done, which is Janaiza. Right now, they would, you know, fix the grave properly, set it in such a way that he can fit in the way that it's recommended in Islam, and he will now be buried. The grave will be covered. But then, before this is done or after it's done, you would have maybe the imam there or a preacher there that would just generally talk about life and death, and just a sermon, and that's about it. He will be buried and everybody will depart. And then other people that wish to, you know, give the final respect and just offer some prayers, you know, this is the time to do it. Although this is a continuous thing, but they would continue to do that.
With tasty Tong tomato mix, you can cook any of your customers' favorite meal.
No color changing like.
It's thick. A little is enough to get your desired quantity.
Some of the courses include non-class course, platoon commander's course, mechanical transport officer's course, commander staff course, and army war college course. During his young officer's course, he worked very hard he demonstrated commendable stamina during practical exercises and in advanced conditions. During his commander staff course in India, he was he demonstrated the ability to comprehend the implications of most situations and apply tactics to arrive at joint. During his army war college course, he was a well-read and skilled professional who demonstrated a vast range of knowledge on statistically related issues. He could read through behavioral issues to identify the source of effect and make appropriate behavior and conditions. He displayed a thorough understanding of issues together with a remarkable ability to deal with a wide range of complex issues in the
Of former President Muhammadu Buhari being read by the Chief of Defense.
Citation of former President Muhammadu Buhari, of course, accomplishments being read out by the Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General C.J. Musa there, talking about his accomplishments and the what he's done, different postings. Already, talking about it's more or less sounds like an eulogy because he served in various army, and the citation is being read by the Chief of Defense Staff. As you rightly said earlier, he served with distinctions in different formations before he got more recognitions by being the governor of Northeast and of course Borno State. You can see in the background the Vice President Senator Kashim Shettima still looking quite sad and contemplative in the background there, and the president is just out of camera, but more to the left of the shot, all watching the process.
Seven, it follows through the same thing, the same pattern.
Okay. This is TVC visual.
So, very shortly, the Nigerian Armed Forces. Looking at the process, of course, this is befitting for a former military, of course, a former general who was an asset to the Nigerian military, throughout his active life.
Yes, very befitting indeed, and it just can't get better than this. Once a life of service in the military right from when he was 19 years old as a young commissioned officer. He served in various formations of the Nigerian Army and then rose, to the senior officers' ranks to, hold positions to which credibility, was the order of the day for him till he became the head of state of Nigeria. Left the military and then became chairman Petroleum Trust Fund and came back again. And twice. It cannot just get better for someone. It's a lesson to be learned by each and every one of us. That everything that Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, now late, stood for is what we as Nigerians need to stand for. If we're going to have this kind of honor and accolade, in our last day on earth. Naysayers can say whatever, but you go ahead and achieve 1% achieved. Then we'll say that probably you're still trying. Now this is honor personified. It's a national honor given to somebody who came as an unassuming young lad and rose through the ranks. Today, he's been honored by his country. He's been honored by all the supporters. He's been honored by presidents. He's been honored by leaders of thought worldwide. He's been honored by the international community. And that stands for him. It's an honor to his family. I said earlier in the morning that amongst his 10 children, there's no verifiable negative controversy about them. It has to do with the father figure, the way he trained his children as a father who was always available to do that. The way he brought up his wife. And of course, when the first wife passed, the second wife came, had her own children for him by the bearer's side. This shows you that he was a man of dignity, that has been buried here today. A true leader of Nigeria, a man of conscience, a man of honor, a man that is frugal in every respect of it. You can see a conundrum of even opposition members, in the political space. They're all here with him. Retired generals are here. Former national chairman of political parties are here. Generals that are serving are here. This can't just be better than this. It's a big lesson for each and every one of us to learn.
Please, can you explain to us exactly what is happening now, Dr. Sam?
He needs to be buried with the white on the white wrapper, and they are just going to lay him to rest in his grave now. There are specific ways to be positioned. So I'm sure, with the imam there and everyone there, they will make sure that it's positioned rightly. And once that is done, there's a process of covering, the grave. You will have some those wool that you saw there earlier. The wood there, they will be arranged, accordingly, and then the soil will begin to be dropped. In some instances, they'll put some leaves as well, just to as part of the ritual, and then covered. So that's how they. As you can see.
It's close associates, members of his family, all ably assisted by Vice President Kashim Shettima, former governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, current governor of Katsina State, Governor Rada, and other dignitaries there. Of course, the former governor of Katsina State is also there. He was also his former speaker, talking about Raji Bello Masari, all at the gravesite now to give the former president befitting farewell. You can see some of his sons right there, just near the gravesite, and this is quite humbling, this final journey that, attests to, the transience of human existence. No matter how long you stay, it's still a journey compared to how much longer you will be in the hereafter, Doctor.
Yes, it's quite humbling, and we keep drawing lessons. We need to draw lessons. This life, just take it simply, take it as it comes. It's not even worth begrudging anybody. You're holding grudges. You're taking things seriously. You're going to leave this world, and luckily enough, the president, while leaving office, asked for forgiveness from those that he has offended. As a Muslim, I think it was in order, for him to do that, because there is no how you would be in various positions for this long, and then you're finishing your second tenure as president, and you wouldn't have offended people either consciously or subconsciously. And as Muslims, when fellow Muslims die like this, we are all asked to just forgive whatever has happened, and pray for the repose of. Have mercy on his soul, and will grant him Jannah and forgive him all his sins. It's quite humbling, like you said. You see that after all of the positions, all of the awards, all of the accolades, all of this talk about him being an upright person, an honest person, someone that has lived well, which comments were largely positive, which we also say Alhamdulillah for. Because it also has a way of clearing the road for you out there with your creator. But you can imagine if he was a terrible leader, the kind of comments would have been getting. Some people, it wouldn't augur well. So it's a lesson for all of us, really, everyone. Just live life as it is. You see, they are going to put the covering there. After they've laid you saw some wood that they laid, and now they would, cover it before they start, covering up finally with soil.
Dr. Sanusi, you were telling us about the process.
Yes. The lead with, you can see some mats there, local mats. You could use that, or you could use fresh leaves. But in this case, they're using the mats. Immediately that's done, you will notice that they will start, they'll start with wet soil. They'll wet some soil and just place one after the other. And after that, they cover with, dry soil, and that's it.
Yeah, will some prayers be offered after this, or are they done?
Prayers is continuous. We are encouraged to continue to pray for the dead, whether you're just sitting here or you're there. But obviously, since people are gathered there, they will use this occasion to also remind people. The imam there or other scholars there, I'm sure, would do that. Also remind people, do a sermon to remind everybody of the importance of living well, because the inevitability of death, which is sure for everyone, and then just encourage everyone to go on about living honest lives with integrity. And of course, I'm sure they would use the life of the president of the former president as an example. It's a moment that I think, calls for very sober reflection. And the fact that most of our elites are there is also an opportunity to remind them, to be of good behavior and serve the people well. Because at the end of the day, this is where we all end.
It seems as if there's a reluctance, Dr. Kishiju, from some of the associates of the president, at least younger associates of the president, to release him. But the man is on his final journey already with his makeup. I'm seeing Senator Ibikunla and Mosu there, also by the graveside, trying to assist while the remains of the former president was being lowered. And as you can see, the dignitaries there, including the chief imam, surrounding the gravesite. At this point, of course, maybe one or two comments will be made. Then, of course, it will be, a farewell for those who have also come to go back to their place. But we've seen one of the sons being consoled there. Just behind as they put the soil in there. Yes. Doctor, you may want to come in here.
Yes, as you can see, they are trying to get the soil wet, and they are passing it around, just to place on the mat that was previously used to cover. And after that, that layer of wet soil, then they now do the final covering using normal soil. This process, you see a lot of people rushing to help. Everybody wants to be part of it because it's a very, very important part of the ritual of burying someone. And it is encouraged that every Muslim that can attend the Janaiza prayer, which was the prayer you saw earlier, reward. It comes with a lot of reward from our Creator. So that is why you see everybody's trying to be a part of it.
Is there any protocol involved in terms of those who can actually put the soil?
Well, we usually have experts that are there to help guide, but everybody that is close, that is around, can contribute, and it's not for specific people, to do. Of course, you see, most people there are men, and I think it has something to do with the religion. It's mostly men that bury, the dead. So they're the ones that can, put the soil and support in the final burial rites.
We're looking at live shots of the final moments, of course, as the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, is being laid to rest in his compound in Daura. The process is being aided by his associates, his family, senior family members. Vice President Kashim Shettima is right there, and the governor of Katsina State is also there. We can see the former governor, the current governor of Borno State, Professor Umar Babagana Zulum, also there, being part of this. As Doctor, it seems as if the top layer you were talking about has been concluded, and now
yes, so just the final covering with the topsoil.
Is there a particular reason why they are using hand? Is it part of the ritual too?
No, you could use if there's shovels. You see, some people are using shovels, but maybe they don't have enough shovels, so everybody is just trying to be part of it. Everyone wants to be part of it because it's very important, and you get a lot of reward for doing this. Not just because he's the former president. For any Muslim at all, any burial, you are able to attend, to give the last respects and help to of burial. It's considered rewarding, so. And as you can see, the military men are actually they've cordoned off the place, so you can imagine how many people would have wanted to. Of course, we don't want a situation of stampede, so it's important to just cordon off and allow a few people to.
In this case, doing this do be family members?
No. At all. We consider us as Muslim brothers. So you don't know where the situation of your death and what's going to surround it. But whoever it is, these are the rituals, and this is what we need to do.
Okay, so I think most importantly, we also need to acknowledge that had gone into this final journey for the late president. I think it's been a while indeed that Nigerians experienced this kind of state burial. So I think we should give credit to the incumbent administration within a very short period. And I'm very sure this is the first time we are actually burying a president and a military ruler at the same time. That goes into this, despite the fact that the remains are to be brought in from outside the Nigerian jurisdiction. We see this.
akwai daga baya akwai harki da bayan muna gudun kamso na ainihin harsashi kada ya fada ma wani wanda ke tsakiya don a koma gefe a koma gefe dana sa hannu a kama su shagun wani don Allah malam saura a koma bayan ba su abin yawa ku ba masu shagun wani tun daga abin aikin okay right what we're about to witness is the firing of the volley for the parent party. The parent party commander is taking charge.
After the firing of the volley, we shall also witness the reverend.
Media, bro.
All right, welcome back to the studio. We've been in Katsina and Daura, to be precise, for the past hour, and before then we're at the Katsina International Airport where the family members and dignitaries received the remains of late President Muhammadu Buhari. And that concludes our live telecast of this special program to honor the late departed President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, who served as democratically elected president from 2015 to 2019 and 2019 to 2023. Before then, he was the military head of state, supervising the affairs of the nation from December 31, 1983 to August 1985. Before I go, just a quick word from all my panelists. This has happened. Is sane, is to a reasonable extent conquered. Dr. Nia Kinshiju.
Conquered, and that is why we are gathered here in his honor, in his memory. Well, he's left us on the journey, all of us individually on the journey, and we pray that, of course, we journey into everlasting radiance and to everlasting glory, because that is the end of man. For those of us who believe in life after life, that what we do in this life will lead us on to higher life, in our next life.
Festus Fifen.
Thank you very much. As a strategic and development communication expert, I would say that the government of the day should invest more in communication and making sure that the right narratives are passed out there. Since morning, we have been monitoring how the president landed, all the processes, and the humbling part was how he was buried. I can tell you for free that in the weeks to come, even when some of us believe that it will be temporary, you will see a change in behavior, we see a change in orientation and some of the things. And this is what communication is all about. We have seen it from up there. He has been buried, and that is a message to the rest of us that are waiting, that you either be remembered for the problems you solved or the one created.
Doctor.
Yes, I great markets, but I've gained also a higher level of leadership acumen, from his life and passing on. And I'm not mourning anymore. Rather, I'm celebrating his life, his legacies, heretofore.
General Muhammadu Buhari, our beloved president, our father, our mentor, he came, he saw, he conquered, like you said. and he lived a life worthy of and filled with lessons. You can see from how he was buried, you have a lot of lessons for people to learn. Young people like me coming up in public service. And I'll use this opportunity to appeal to the government. They've given him a befitting state burial, but his legacy should linger. And how they can help do this is to help develop a leadership